everybody. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of the Silver Lyming. I really have come forward to bring you these podcasts because I feel compelled to share stories about those who have healed and recovered from Lyme and tick-borne illness. Having gone through it myself, I understand a lot of the challenges that people face and how lonely and dark truly that space can be, and sometimes overwhelming, confusing, scary, just a lot of different things that we can experience when we're especially getting initiated into this space of Lyme and tick-borne illness. And also, secondly, I really do just like to bring a little bit more awareness to it, a little bit better understanding in the general public. If you're not somebody struggling with Lyme and tick-borne illness, we pray that you never become one. But it is very important for you to understand about ticks, their habitat, different signs and symptoms that could be leading to Lyme and tick-borne illness. I know now I start to work with quite a few different people. They give me their laundry list of symptoms, and it's like, ooh, man, you probably check almost every one for Lyme and tick-borne illness. Have you considered it? And again, keep in mind, the standard two-tier testing does us no favors with a accuracy rate of maybe 50 to 65%. So this is not the end all be all when it comes to testing. And when I make that reference, I'm talking about the Western blot and the ELISA test. They're just not necessarily specialized enough or sensitive enough, however you want to put that. And there's a litany of reasons why. And if you do suspect Lyme and tick-borne illness, please consider getting to an ILADS trained physician or someone who is much more of a specialist in this space that can help you to get to accurate testing so you have an answer. I just talked to someone who's been struggling for years with her health. They completely had her misdiagnosed, and she finally got an IGNX test, and lo and behold, it's Lyme and tick-borne illness. So at least gratefully now she can go ahead and start with some different types of treatment to support her body in the right ways and get on a path and road to recovery. But without further ado, to get back to really the issues here is I again want to share stories of hope and people recovering from Lyme and tick-borne illness. And a few weeks back, I had a wonderful opportunity to interview someone. We'll be releasing her episode shortly, Camryn Cassetori, and just knowing what she has gone through. She's this very inspirational young lady, just recently graduated college, but she fought through Lyme and tick-borne illness on her journey to getting where she is now. It gives me goosebumps to think about just how much harder her struggle really had to be, going off to college, having this disease, having to function in a normal world or the time of your life where you're supposed to be partying and carefree and having fun. And there she is being very strict and diligent and fast with what she has to do to support herself, and just a completely different experience. But she made it. And it's just awesome. And so now today I have her mom here with me, and Michele Cassetori is someone that I've come to know through my own journey with Lyme and tick-borne illness. Michele has been an inspiration to me. And although she telling me when we got on a call what I am to her, but I was thinking of her this morning and just, when I first got diagnosed, I was on a mission to educate others once I could actually talk and communicate with the world again. And think clearly enough to hold thoughts and conversations. I became a public prevention specialist for an organization, PA Lyme Resource Network, and that is Michele is also one of the regional leaders in that organization. But she was well certified before I was, and I remember seeing your presentation, Michele, and I was like, "Oh my God, that lady is amazing. Like, how will I ever get to that level?" And my brain was still pretty broken at the time. And so, but you were like what I was like aspiring to be like, and giving
Oh,
that performance to people and sharing with them that
oh,
information, because you can tell it's very genuine and heartfelt, that you care incredibly much so. And also, I love your background in that you're also trained as a healthcare worker and professional, and like that carries through with the messaging that you can give to people because you're looking at it more through that lens, right? And that just adds so much more value and depth for people to really understand the dangers involved with being exposed to ticks, and consequently, Lyme and other co-infections that people contract. And so it's just been an honor to know you again. You've always been a very solid force, like very grounded and calm, in my opinion, my exposure to you. And I see you as like someone who's just like cutting through and going very straight through the mess. And I know that's probably a lot of what you had to do to help Camryn get better. And that's really why I've invited you here. I'd really love for you to share a little bit more about your story with Lyme and tick-borne illness and your perspective, and just some of the knowledge that you acquired with listeners so that they can, again, understand this on a little bit of a different level.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anne. Thanks for that great introduction. And yeah, it's been quite a journey. I know you've lived through it yourself, and as a parent, it's been very challenging to watch my daughter go through it and see the suffering and the challenges that she was faced with, and then trying to figure out my role as a caregiver. That was probably the biggest challenge. Camryn got sick when she was 12. And at the time, I didn't think anything of these random symptoms. I mean, she was an athlete, she was very active. So, coming home and having some swelling in her knee after a basketball game, or some swelling in her elbow after playing tennis, I didn't think much of it. Most of the time, I just put ice on it and let it go. But then it just kept getting worse and worse, and it wasn't really calming down. And then, I think back, there were times where she had headaches. Of course, that's the age where she started to wear glasses because, she got her eyes checked and needed glasses. That wasn't uncommon. I wear contacts. My husband does as well. So we didn't think anything of it. Being 12 years old, being that kind of preteen, having headaches, could have been hormones. We again didn't think much of it, just kind of let it go. And eventually it just kept getting worse. So we made several trips over the course of a year to the pediatrician. And the pediatrician also didn't think much of it and just kind of let things go. Eventually, because her knee was really, really becoming a problem, we were referred to an orthopedist who sent us to physical therapy. And it was actually a coworker of mine who treated Camryn and said to me, "Do you realize that her right leg is atrophied?" And I did not. I mean, I should have, but I did not. And it was significantly smaller than her left leg. I mean, the muscle was wasting. So, and that explained a lot. And then she developed cellulitis in that leg. And I thought, what 12-year-old gets cellulitis? This is crazy. So I started thinking that maybe all of these issues were not separate diagnoses that were just related to being a 12-year-old, but that maybe they were all symptoms of an underlying systemic problem. And I wasn't really sure what it was. I didn't know anything about Lyme, no idea. But I started doing some digging, and one of the things I landed on was Lyme as a possibility. So when I took her back to the pediatrician, I asked the doctor to do a Lyme test. And at that point, the doctor herself was a little startled when she saw the atrophy and started talking to me about, maybe it's a muscular dystrophy, maybe it's a childhood arthritis, there could be other issues. So I agreed to let her run some of those tests if she wanted, if she would agree to run the Lyme test that I wanted. So that's what she did. And then she called me up a couple of days later and said that Camryn has late Lyme. Now, I did not know what that meant. I didn't know at the time that Lyme is a staged disease and that there was any difference between late Lyme and acute Lyme. So she referred us to a pediatric infectious diseases specialist. And I thought, great, this person's going to treat this and we're good to go. So we went, and it was out of the area, but we went, and Camryn was given, I think it was about 2 weeks of antibiotics. And she started to feel better during that time frame on the antibiotics. But after the 2 weeks was up, they literally took her blood work paper and wrote treated on it and gave it back to me and said, she'll be good. So off we went. And they said, if she has any residual symptoms, you can give her Advil. So we came home, and within like a couple of weeks, I mean, she got really sick. Like all of the symptoms she had before came back, but they were even worse. I mean, I couldn't even believe it. I thought maybe she got bit again, but she hadn't. So I called them immediately, and they were very dismissive. And this went on for weeks. I just kept calling them and saying, now it's getting worse. Now it's getting worse. And they just kept saying, give her Advil. Finally, they said to me, and she was losing weight. She was just just getting thin, getting frail. And they said to me, maybe she has an eating disorder. At this point, she's 13. So they're like, she's 13. And I said, she loves food. I don't think that's it. But, I said to them, well, if you think she should be evaluated for that, I'll take her and let them evaluate her. So I did. I took her and they evaluated her. And the psychologist said to me, she doesn't meet any of the criteria for an eating disorder. Why is she here? And I said, well, they told me to bring her here. And they said, this is not an eating disorder. That's clearly not the issue. So at that point, we decided to take matters into our own hands. And that's when I learned a little more about Lyme. And that's when I realized that late Lyme is very different than acute Lyme. And that's when I discovered PA Lyme Resource Network. And I learned that there are doctors and practitioners that are trained specifically in tick-borne disease. That's when we started our journey, what I would consider our journey back to real health. We got connected up with an outstanding Lyme literate practitioner, and we began the journey. So that's kind of was our starting point. And I felt really, that Camryn was almost being like gaslit by the medical community at that time, because they were trying to tell me that it was all in her head and that she was just being, a teenager and maybe she had an eating disorder. And really none of that was true. And so I was feeling very frustrated because as a healthcare worker, I came from a very traditional medical model background. So I thought taking her to this infectious diseases specialist was like the absolute best thing I could possibly do. And that whatever this person told me was going to be the perfect solution. And it just was not. And what I came to realize is that they really have very little training in the specialty that is tick-borne disease treatment. So
Yes.
it's a shame, but you really do need someone who stays up on the current science and the research and understands, the totality of what that disease does, because it can get to your brain and your heart and your muscles. I mean, it literally burrowed into her leg muscle and atrophied it. So when I realized like the depth and the vastness of it, I mean, first of all, I immediately felt like horribly guilty for not, first of all, for not having figured it out sooner. And then for allowing all this time to go by and not get it treated the right way. So that was really, really just a very difficult time. And as we began the journey, then trying to get, our then 13-year-old daughter on board with this really intense lifestyle change. I mean, what 13-year-old wants to hear that they shouldn't have gluten or dairy or soy or sugar? And what 13-year-old wants to take, 10 pills before breakfast? I mean, it's just, that was a complete life change. And looking back now, it took such a long dose of treatment and a variety of treatments that we were just on this crazy kind of roller coaster ride. And I assumed the role of, caregiver. I mean, there were many times, I mean, Camryn couldn't walk up the steps. She couldn't get in the tub. She couldn't get dressed. I mean, she couldn't get out of bed. Like, she was really, really, really sick. So I became a caregiver, but I also had to become a patient advocate. I had to be, I felt like I had to be a caseworker too, because I had to figure out, okay, we need to go here for this and here for that, and I've got to piece all this together. I became, as kind of a mom and running the household, I was always sort of involved in like the budgeting. I mean, my husband and I did it together, but this threw a whole new level of expense into the mix for us. So we started to have to really look at, finances and scheduling and like I said, caregiver, and then still trying to make sure she was getting her education. And so it just became, my whole role changed. And that went on for several years. I mean, it was a 10-year journey of treatment for Camryn to get her to the point that she's at now, which is a good place. And I'm so thankful to God for it. But it was rough. It was rough.
I
Yeah.
can only imagine. And you also have other children. And
Yes.
so it's
Yes.
also lump them into this equation, right? Like you got one child who's like really, really needing your support and love and care. You
Yeah.
also have two other children that do really, really need your love and support and care just in different ways. How
Right.
was that balancing?
Yeah, that was really tough as well. We have an older daughter and we have a younger son. So Camryn is in the middle, and we're a very close family. We've always been close, and we're still close to this day. Thank God, we survived the storm of Lyme. I could certainly see how Lyme can create a lot of divide in families. I could see how it pulls people apart, and I've said this to my husband so many times through these years. I'm so proud of us. I say that to him all the time. Like, even though I have a lot of regrets, things I wish I had done differently, I'm so proud of all of us. I'm proud of Camryn for enduring. I'm proud of her brother and sister for being unwavering support systems for her, and, putting up with her frustration, because it was tough. I mean, when you're in pain, and I know you know this, I mean, it's easy to be in a bad mood.
Yes.
I'm so proud of us for all we've gone through and what we've done. And, but it was not easy. It was not easy. And, we all ended up like, it impacted our relationships with each other and with Camryn too. And that's probably one of the biggest like regrets that I have looking back at it. I went in, they say when you feel like you're in a bad situation, it's the fight or flight. I mean, I really went into fight. I mean, I was, I think it's probably just recently that I finally laid down my sword, so to speak.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I was on guard. I was going to protect my baby. Like, I was going to do whatever it took to get her well. And in doing that, I didn't build in time to just be her mom.
Mm.
Like, I stopped, like, let's just go for mani pedis,
Yeah,
let's bake cookies. God, I was never going to bake a cookie, and not a regular cookie in
for
our
sure.
house, because, sugar is the enemy. And, my other kids were like, don't you bring those cupcakes home. Um, so it affected everybody. I was constantly on guard, like, even like gifts, like if somebody gave us a Christmas gift and it had like a floral hand soap in it, I was tossing it, because you know that could be toxic. We can't have that. We have to have the clean stuff. So um, I kind of regret that I didn't build in time to just say, like, let's just be a mom daughter, and you guys just be siblings, and go ahead and pick on her no matter what. And so that was very difficult. Thankfully, we all got through it, and since then we've all talked about all this, and we're all like really good. But in that moment, I was so in fight mode. I just kept myself there. I just kept myself there, and I didn't need to keep myself there 24/7, but I did. I did. And part of that was probably me protecting myself from not wanting to experience some of the other things as well, some of the emotions. I just kept myself in that fight mode for a long time.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard to like completely shift momentum when you've been going so hard at something for so long with your entire being. to
Yeah.
be like, yeah, I'm not that person anymore. I'm just going to be a completely different person now. Like it's
Right.
hard. We go
It
through
is.
many times in this journey with this sickness is like, I've got to be a new person now in terms of who my being is and how I function and my lifestyle habits and the foods that I eat and all the different things that I've got to be like a whole new person from your perspective as a mom. Like I'm here to like save my kid. I really got
Yeah.
to focus on that.
Yeah.
And I really, I hear you saying like regrets, but it's like, please, absolutely zero regrets. And like, it's so hard in the middle to think normal.
Yeah.
When you're sick, it's like
Right.
that's, when you're healing. I shouldn't say when you're sick, when you're healing. Like I want people to
Right.
actively think about it as healing, not being sick. Like
Yeah.
we're getting better, we're always improving. Um, but yeah, like thinking normal like that is
Right.
very challenging. You don't really stop to take a breath. It's just like, let me just focus on the problem at hand, which is saving my daughter's life because
Right.
and
Right.
that's I don't think sometimes people really realize that with Lyme. It's like, um, it really can be a life or death situation.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it's really underplayed sometimes, or that misconception of treated after 2 weeks of antibiotics. And there you go, kiddo, have some ibuprofen for the rest of your life. We may as well just put a drip on you because that's how much
Right.
you might need it because, you're not really fixed.
Yeah.
Um, and when in fact it can have dire consequences. And
Yeah.
I know this, this all too well. We know this personally speaking, and
Right.
it's awful. And
Right.
so people really just need to understand time sensitivity. You talked a lot about that too, and just like feeling bad about how you like so much time had gone by, but again, no fault of your own. You're doing absolutely
Yeah.
everything in your power to figure out an answer.
Right. Right.
But for those listening, if things aren't adding up, things aren't making sense, keep fighting for this answer in a sense, because w all too many times we see that this really is what the underlying causes of so many problems, hip replacements, the knee replacements,
Right.
mental issues, like just
Right.
all kind it takes it on in so many different forms and fashion. And so like it's your body, you have the right to know what's going on with you. And again, talking at the beginning there with the doctor, and it's like, I'll test her for this if you get me what I want. It
Right.
shouldn't have to be this way. It should be
Yep.
like, okay, I'm going to get you what you need. I do feel that they should make this part of people's annual screenings, especially in areas like where we live in Pennsylvania, where it's
Yes.
so rampant.
Yeah.
But we are still struggling then with the challenge of inadequate testing and
Right.
that problem. And hopefully in our lifetime, one can hope it hasn't changed in my entire lifetime, but
Right.
hopefully in the remaining second half of my lifetime, we
Yeah.
will see a better solution for testing so that people can really get an answer. It is
Yeah.
very imperative. Like if you figured it out fast enough, then maybe none of that would have happened, right?
Right.
But
Exactly. Yeah. It had like, I always say like Lyme had a full year head start on us.
yeah,
We were trying to catch up for a whole year, because that entire year of going to the doctors for these various things and never, just never even entered the mind of the pediatrician. I mean, this was, someone who played outside, who did, was at a basketball camp, which was in the woods, but it just never entered anybody's mind. And it's kind of a shame that we lost 12 months, to it. And that made it much more difficult. And the other thing that I didn't know anything about at the time were all the co-infections. I mean, Camryn
yes.
had 2 co-infections plus an Epstein-Barr virus that became activated. And I didn't know anything about that. So not only did we have to go after the Lyme, but we had to go after those other co-infections, which was something I did not understand. So, then I had to become a researcher in the midst of all this. I'd be up at night on the computer, reading and trying to find articles and things. And again, finding a good Lyme literate practitioner was a complete blessing. But it was it was like full on education. You really have to get educated. And then that also helps you to accept. I think it helped to accept the necessary treatment, because it would have been great if what the infectious diseases specialist said was true. Take this pill, twice a day for 14 days and you're going to be good. Like, I wanted to believe that. I wanted that to be
Wouldn't.
the answer.
Yeah.
That was great. I mean, 2 weeks, we got this. I mean, you're a little photosensitive during the 2 weeks, but we can deal with that.
Right.
But that was not the case. So I think educating people about Lyme and other co-infections and what they do to your body makes it a lot easier to understand why the treatment needs to be longer, variable, more intense at times. And you do feel sicker longer, and that's why you have to treat longer. And you have to kind of stay with it. And it's very difficult. And a lot of times, people just want to stop treatment midstream. And Camryn did that many times. We'd start, we'd stop. She'd be like, I'm done doing this. I don't want to do it anymore. And we just had to keep nudging her along. And finally she got to the point where she said, she said, like, this isn't living. Like, that she said, I'm dying, but just very slowly with this, and I'm not living. And that's when she said, I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to try one more time. So, and I had been researching all kinds of other types of treatment and things that we could do that were a little more extreme, but that started making some really good sense to me based on where Camryn was at. So that's when we said, all right, I had asked her about stem cell treatment a year prior, and she was against it. She was at a point where she really just wanted a break from treatment and just didn't want to do anything. But when she realized that she just wasn't well, that's when she came to us and said, okay, I'm willing to try one more time. And so we went all in, and, really all thanks to God, it really worked out well. And she has been able to heal, and she's really emerged into, physically, her body is different, of course, and there are sensitivities that she lives with that she probably didn't have before she was exposed. But the truth is, she's emerged into a beautiful, strong, healthy, capable, happy, hopeful, faithful woman.
Very much so.
So, I do believe she's the person she's meant to be,
Yes.
so.
Always.
Yeah.
And we talked about that a little off camera, but just thinking about, going through this experience, and would you change it? Is this something that you would want to make it different? And I'll let you speak to that. We talked a little bit
Sure.
before, but
Yeah. I had mentioned that someone had posed that question to me, not for a specific answer, just kind of putting it out there to me years ago. We were probably a few years into the thick of the journey. It was a very difficult point, and in the process at that moment. And when I heard that question, like, would you change it? I mean, I didn't say anything. I was sort of stunned by the question because I was like, well, of course, we would never want this. But I'll be honest, over these years, as we've come further through it, it's a sensitive question for me because for me, I wouldn't change it. I also do feel that would I change it for Camryn? That's that part I think I leave to her to answer. Would she change it? I don't know what she would say. My journey through it, I wouldn't, but I would never say that my daughter needs to re-endure what she endured. So her point is for her to answer, but it's not been easy, but it's also not been a journey without blessing. It really has been blessed in many ways. And I think the best thing that I've, experienced and that I've seen actually in my family, my 3 children, my husband, myself, it really has been God's healing and restoration, not just of Camryn's physical health, but all of us spiritually, um, just, the being able to witness, the work God has done, the healing and restoration in all of us has been just amazing. It's really been amazing. And of course, gaining knowledge and friends like you, and all the people that you and I know, through PA Lyme and through other Lyme warriors, just these are people that, I probably would have not met. And they are some of the most, admirable people that I know, you know? So I think one of Camryn's favorite sayings is, iron sharpens iron. And it's right. It's so true. Just the beauty of that is amazing. So for that, I am thankful,
Yes.
for this experience.
Yes. And I'm thinking back to my interview with Cameron, and it's just again making me cry a little bit in regard to strengthening faith and having and do trust in God and just all belief in that, and He will heal. And I know just from my own experience, it got hard at sometimes um to be in that place with God because I was really mad and I didn't understand what was wrong with me, and I thought He made me broken, and all these doctors kept telling me there was nothing wrong with me, and so I had a very lousy relationship with God. But again, thinking about with my interview with Cameron, I know she has a very good relationship with God, and I'm really glad for that. And I think partially that was strengthened through this experience for her, but also remembering how she was talking about her family relationship and the love and the support that she felt that she received from all of you.
That means a lot. That means a
Yeah.
lot. And yeah, it really, really does. And I, I haven't listened to Camryn's interview because I wanted to do this without, without having her hearing hers,
Yes.
um, and I that makes me feel so good because, and I totally get where you're coming from with being angry and not having a great relationship with God, because there was a period of time, when I was in that fight mode and I was exhausted. We were all exhausted. And I was angry too, and I didn't talk to God, for a while because, I didn't even know what to say. And somewhere along the line, something changed. And, like I said, maybe that's why we had to go through it all. I'm not sure, but it's been quite a transformation for all of us that it's just been really, really great, really great. But it has not been easy. It has
Yes.
not been easy.
No, it's certainly not for the faint of heart to walk this walk. And someone told me once that God picks us for a reason because we're
Mhm.
strong and He knows that we can handle it, and okay, but I
Yeah,
don't know if I needed Him to point that out. I already
right,
know that I'm really
right.
strong. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know about that whole thing. Yeah. So
yeah,
um and there is some resolve to knowing that you can get better. And again, another thing that we've highlighted is just not everything about this is bad,
right,
and that there are a lot of good things that come out of it and a lot of good moments. And I do want people who are listening, who are in the thick of it, to remember that. And in your darkest days, just know that it will change, it can get better. Nothing ever stays the same, and it's only a temporary state of time, even if it feels like an eternity and a life sentence.
yeah,
And you can get better overnight, practically. Like, you might not even realize that you're getting better, and then one day you wake up and you're just like, wow, I actually feel so much better.
right.
Because again, Cameron's transformation, 10 years,
Yeah,
right, to heal and to get
yeah.
better. And I actually 2 more days, it'll be my seventh seventh anniversary diagnosis, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, it took me 7 years to get diagnosed, another 7 years to fix myself, but I'm really there now. And it's like, thank
Yeah,
God. But
yeah,
it takes that's like an epic saga it's a
Yes.
more than a trilogy, right? That people
Right.
have to
Right.
suffer and go through, and it can be very hard to lose your hopeful compass.
Yeah.
And again, for those listening, not to be eh, putting out a buzzkill, but Lyme has one of the highest suicide rates of any disease out
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
And I know from living it, I can completely understand why.
Yeah.
And if you have a loved one or somebody else struggling with this, just check in on them every now and again, because it's hard for us to reach out when we don't feel well. It's really hard to ask for love and support because you're just basically in a fetal position, sucking your thumb, praying that it's going to go
Right.
away.
Right.
And so it's very vital and important, and I'm so glad for Camryn that she had you as support
Oh,
to help her, to anchor her, to keep her here, to keep her safe, and to usher her through what she needed to get through, because it's hard alone.
yeah.
And it's hard enough alone, but it gets a little easier when you have some people there fighting for you. And it's sad in today's society, where we're supposed to be one of the most medically advanced places, that you basically have to go to medical school yourself and do all this research and figure it out yourself, because there's no agreed upon consensus as to what treatment looks like. How do
Right.
we really move forward with this? Again, ILADS is a group that we've referenced. It's the International Lyme and Associated Disease Society. There are doctors who belong to this, and they've got a lot more knowledge. Like, you're going to go to a specialist for lupus, you go to a specialist for um, eczema, you're going to go to a specialist, like whatever thing ails you. Why would we not think to go to a specialist for Lyme? And so that's very imperative for people to understand that there are specialists made just for this, to help us with this. But it's also sort of wild to think about that it's really not covered by insurance, that we're left to foot the bill for this.
Yep.
And again, since there's no true and tried agreed upon consensus for this, like, they can't say this is how you heal yourself. So here, we're going to cover this with insurance. You try many different things, many different things. Some stuff that I could tell people that they would be like, what? But
Yeah.
I was willing to try. I didn't really
Yes.
care.
Right.
You want me to lick what out of where? Okay, fine. I will lick it. I don't care. Um, if it makes me better. And it shouldn't have to be like this. And again, just the financial burden it puts on people, um, coupled with already the physical impairments that you're going through, the emotional impairments that you're having to do, and figuring out and just accepting the fact that there's something wrong with you in the first place. But then layer on the whole financial side, like, it just makes it too much. And
Right.
stress is one of our worst enemies with this illness. Like, you want to talk about having a flare, go through a really stressful time in life and see what happens to you, right? And like, it's just, we've got to do better as a society. As, I don't know if it's the government, I don't, like, whoever needs to figure this out. Obviously, we do our best
Right.
to push forth different legislation and get better acknowledgement, especially in our state of Pennsylvania. It's just really far behind. Um, but we've just got to do better. So if you're listening and this has touched you in any way, please feel compelled enough to reach out to our elected officials and let them know that something needs to be done differently about this. Because I I know we talked a little bit about the financial impact that it had on you. I know the financial impact it had on me,
Mhm.
and people shouldn't have to live in that space to afford to take care of themselves. Like, this is the disease of the wealthy, if you want my opinion. Like, if
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
poor or you don't have any money, forget about it. Like,
Yeah.
how are you going to get better? Because it's so expensive to tackle this. And I just again, both of us with all our hearts want people to avoid this, not have to go through this, to understand what this looks like, so that it can get addressed sooner and
Mhm.
you're not left paying quadrillions of dollars to fix yourself and go into like back alley deals to like get a treatment for yourself, because you can't really go mainstream. Like, it's got to change. And
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot more movement around this. In a sense, I've seen a lot more articles recently referencing that it's worse than cancer.
Mhm.
And I've had a lot of people who have had both tell me that this is way worse than cancer.
Mm.
And I mean, with cancer, at least in a sense, there is a agreed upon treatment path for that. And like
Mhm.
insurance will help you to cover that. And other things like hyperbaric oxygen treatments would probably be covered by insurance if you have cancer. Whereas if you have Lyme, that kind of thing isn't covered and you're figuring out how to pay for that out of pocket. And just it's a little bit it's so unsettling. It's definitely one of the biggest crimes against humanity, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And I know people like you, people like me, we're doing our best to change that,
Right.
change the message that's out there around this, educate other
Mhm.
Lyme professionals. Like we just gratefully got to see each other. And I have that picture of the group of us up. And when you were talking about having met these people and just how some of them are like
Yeah.
the best people. And I have that picture in my kitchen. And I look at it and I say a prayer over everybody in that picture every day. And I'm just so thankful for those people because
Yeah.
we fight so hard for free. Like it's all
We do.
volunteer. We're just doing this. And it's not like I have nothing else to do, but it is
Right.
just that we're that
Yeah.
passionate about helping others and helping educate others and change the messaging that has falsely been tied
Yeah.
to this narrative so
Mhm.
that people don't have to experience what we've gone through.
Yeah, so true. I'm thrilled to be an educator. I mean, especially having a healthcare background, and so having the opportunity to still work in the field of healthcare that I do, but also to educate on tick-borne disease and tick bite prevention, really specifically, and Lyme and other tick-borne illness prevention. It really, really helps me. That was one of the first things I think that became a real positive channel for my anger. It was a way for me to kind of right a wrong, or at least
Yes.
try to be a part of righting the wrong. We still have a long way to go, but I feel like getting involved with PA Lyme Resource Network was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Even for me as a person, as an individual, it's been just amazing. And I hope to continue that work ongoing and until we make a change. I
Yes.
love getting out and doing the education on the prevention. I love being a part of the patient conference. I love being a part of the medical conference so that we can educate other healthcare providers, physicians, nurses, chiropractors, pharmacists. We can get them educated so that they can reach more patients and get more word out and get quicker treatment so people don't have to have the delay and then be stuck with these late stage cases where things are just really starting to break apart. So I'm just so thankful to have that opportunity to do that as well.
Yes. Yes.
I
And
totally agree with you.
yeah, and you're making me realize like I do a terrible job at this, but this is a great opportunity to change that. If you are part of a group or an organization that would benefit from having someone like me or Michelle come and talk to you, and teach you about tick bite prevention, teach you more about the habitat, how to keep your property and family safer, and some different things to think about if you happen to come into contact with a tick, you can book us through PA Lyme Resource Network.
Mhm.
Reach out to the organization. We have trained moderators throughout the state that we can come out wherever you are. We can do it virtually if it needs to be that way. If maybe you're out of state and you want a virtual presentation, we're happy to do that because our main mission here is to educate people more about keeping themselves safer from this. I have goosebumps thinking about this. But
Yeah.
Michelle is an amazing educator, amazing speaker. Again, she was one of the very first presentations that I ever saw and gave me so much to aspire to in terms of delivering the message in the way that she sees it. But I feel that all of us at some point in time become so fluent in this because we've lived it and we know it so well. And so now, 5 years later, my brain works much better again, that I'm a lot more like Michelle, that it's a little more entertaining to watch me than it was before, I assure you. Um, but yeah, and you can reach out at any time. We're happy to do this. I go out and do this myself in my community, and it's an honor to go out and meet people and talk to them. And I find it's always met with welcome arms, right? I guess people wouldn't be there if they really didn't want to learn about it, but most people are so grateful to learn the information that we have to share and they always get asked a bazillion questions. People are very interested in learning more about this. And so this is a great resource for you. Again, we're trained professionally. We have a really great PowerPoint presentation. We put out a lot of materials if you're interested, again, to help to just enforce the messaging that you can share with your friends and loved ones after the presentation if they weren't able to join. But that is something else that is available. So please reach out. We love to do that.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah. How many of those do you think you've done by now?
Oh, wow. I mean, I've been doing them for a few years, so quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite between webinars and in-person seminars, quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm so happy to say my son, who is just turned 20 in June, is becoming a certified facilitator for the Dare to be Tick Aware program. So
Awesome.
he's hoping to take this education and kind of work maybe some of the college age groups, and he's a college athlete as well, so he's hoping to get out there and educate some of his college peers about tick bite prevention and Lyme disease prevention. So I'm super proud of him for kind of standing up and saying, hey, I want to do this, and I'm just really proud of him for that.
For sure, for sure. And that's what's like, if I have the thought of like, this is a gift that keeps on giving, but it's like, it's not really a gift, but like it
Yeah.
can turn into a gift and it can give
Right.
you a completely different purpose and passion in life. And just, I mean, maybe again, I've looked at it as like, I wouldn't have gone in this direction with what I do without it. And
Yeah.
so I needed it to push me here into this space. And as you said, Cameron's become the woman that she's meant to be. This experience happened to her, it happened to all of you to help to shape
Mhm.
you to get you to where you need to be. And now look at the powerhouse that you've created. Like you have such a nice family, first of all, just on a family level that you communicate
Oh,
and talk and love and support each other. Like that's beautiful. People don't get through these things without that healthy communication and like being able to understand and relate to each other. So
yeah.
on that level, fantastic. But then on community level and just helping to educate people in the ways that you do and you've got all these like your kids are out there now, they're like doing it and like fantastic, right? Like you
Aw,
guys have really
thanks.
made a huge impact on our world and that is such a beautiful thing to see, and that's the stuff that comes out of this that's just like
Yeah.
I'm so thankful I get to watch this and I get to see this and I can witness it, like you say, like we get to witness miracles happening
Yeah.
right before our very eyes, and it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
as weird as it seems when I ask people, it's like, "What's the best thing that's happened to you as a result of getting Lyme and
Mhm.
tick-borne illness?" It's like, well, actually, and there's lots of good things that have come out
Yeah.
of it, and, no one's have ever said to me, "Nothing."
Right. Right. Yeah.
Which, you know, and it's like, "Okay, good," and for those listening, just know that, and take our story here today. May it give you the inspiration that you need to know that you can heal your body and you can get well again. It
Mhm.
might take an act of God, more than likely, it's going to take God. And whether you're talking with God right now or not, whether you believe in God right now or not, I have to assure you, if you get through the journey and you're looking at it from the other side, and we should say when you get through it to the other side, you will know that God was always with you. There's no way I could have done this alone. As angry as I got in the middle and as much as I didn't wanna talk to him, I know, like, there's that saying where it's like the 2 footprints, 2 sets of
Yeah.
footprints on the beach, right? And then there's only
Yep.
one, and it's like, "Where'd God go?" And it's like, "Well, that was God carrying me, actually." So,
Right.
yeah, and, I just hope that people can maybe get a better relationship in that perspective, because if no one else is there for you, God is there for you.
Right.
And if you're struggling with this and you have further questions, you can reach out to me. I'm sure you can reach out to Michelle. And,
Absolutely.
you know, we're very committed and active in helping people figure out their end so that they can get through this and put the bad behind them and get to the point where we're at, where it's like, okay, this was actually a really great experience because of the soul evolution that I've acquired.
Right.
It just, yes, iron, would you say iron strengthens iron?
Sharpens iron. Yeah.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's for sure. So I am grateful for you. I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for your support, your love, your care. You you were touched by this like directly, but indirectly. You know, it's always people like you who didn't have it that
Hmm.
fight so hard, that
Hmm.
educate, that are so passionate, that fascinate me almost more
Oh,
because like having been in through it and lived through it, like yes, I'm very compelled to teach people, but those like you who are kind of like I don't wanna say on the outside, but, like, you didn't
yeah.
personally experience it.
Right.
Um, like just for your determination and dedication to this is greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much. And thanks for the, for all that you do, and even for this podcast, creating this opportunity, this platform for people to share their story and to offer hope to other people, because you do need that. You need to see some success stories. You need to hear from people that kind of got through it. I think that's super, super important. And I do want to say to all of the people out there today that are in the role of a caregiver, whether you are a parent, a child of a sick parent, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, whoever you are, if you're in that role of caregiver, I do first and foremost want to say you're doing a great job. I know that the first time somebody said that to me, I was like, wait, me? Who's talking to me? Like spotlight on Camryn, not on me. Like I didn't even, you forget to even check in with yourself. You really do. So to all of those people in that role, I just want to say, like, you're doing a great job. And, don't beat yourself up over the things you didn't get done today, because you're doing a great job. And, just stay loving and stay supportive, and don't forget to build in time to just be the mom, the daughter, the son, the brother, the sister, the cousin, the friend, the spouse. Nurture that relationship, keep that going. And to the Lyme patients out there, just keep on going, because where you are now in this moment, there's still more healing. There's more healing and there's restoration, and it might look different than it looked before, but it can be beautiful, and you can get there. So you've got to just stay hopeful and reach out to the resources that are around you.
Yes. Because even if you feel like no one's going to understand, there are people who do understand. And if we don't quite get it, we're at least sympathetic to you, to try to help and try to understand where you're at, to give you some encouragement. Yeah. Those are some great words of advice. Thanks. Because again, it's really hard sometimes to pull yourself out of where you are, like the frenzy, the push, the fight to survive, and to remind yourself that we do still need to be, we're human beings, not human doings. And we do need to just be sometimes, and we need to be having fun, and we need to remember what it feels like to laugh and to have joy, because that also can get lost in the shuffle of this race to fix oneself. And
right.
I think it's only been recently that I've truly started to feel joy again. And it's beautiful, but like it takes a while to reset system once you've gone through and fought so hard for so long. And
true.
So very good words of advice. Thank you again. And you're just a wealth of knowledge. So again, if people are looking for more information, feel free to contact me or Michelle. You can book us through PA Lyme Resource Network. And if you feel funny or off, please consider Lyme and tick-borne illness, as it is time sensitive and it is critical to get treatment as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Anne.
My pleasure. Thank you. I look forward to putting this on. Have a good one.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Definitely.